call to order the regular meeting of Monday, July the 8th, and if the clerk would please take the roll.
Councilmember Archibald?
Here.
Councilmember Ashford?
Present.
Councilmember Beeden? Here. Councilmember Harris?
Here.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Here.
Councilmember Warden?
Here.
Mayor Rep.
Here. You have the minutes from the regular meeting of June 24th and the special meeting of July the 1st. Is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Second.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, is there any additions, deletions? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes stand as submitted. We do have two public hearings tonight. If the clerk would please read the first one.
To hear comments on the continuation of the Downtown Special Assessment District for the ongoing maintenance of the Huron Avenue Streetscape Project. Following the hearing, council will consider adoption of the resolution to continue the Special Assessment District.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to public hearing number 1? If they do, please come forward at this time and give us your name and address. Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and I will ask for a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Beeden, is there any discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Warden.
this one, is this the north? Yeah. I think I'm, since I do have a property in that location, previous years I would had to abstain from that. Okay, thank you.
No problem. We will take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden? Yes. Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Move on to public hearing number 2.
To hear comments on the continuation of the Downtown Special Assessment District for the ongoing maintenance of the Military Street Streetscape Project. Following the hearing, council will consider adoption of the resolution to continue the Special Assessment District.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address public hearing number 2? If so, please come to the podium and give us your name and address. Seeing no one, I'll declare public hearing number 2 closed and ask for a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved. Support.
Councilmember Ashford, supported by Councilmember Pemberton. Is there any discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden? Yes. Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. We'll move on now to public comment. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council this evening, either on an agenda item or anything under our jurisdiction, please come to the podium. Give us your name and address, and you have 4 minutes.
Hi, my name is Chris Troy, 1229 7th Street. I just kind of wanted, I know it's probably going to be coming up or discussed later, but regarding the traffic lights on Court and Union, living on the corner of Court and Union and the flashing lights, we've kind of learned that because there's no real hindrance for people to slow down, they decide to speed up even faster. I actually, and I was explaining to Mayor Pro Tem, was driving 30 miles an hour, yes, 5 miles over, heading north the other day on 7th Street, and someone passed me in front of St. Joseph's and peeled away. We sit there on the porch, and it's amazing how fast cars are going. I just kind of think that if you're going to maybe stop one for whatever reason you guys have decided to, maybe one instead of the 2, then at least there's a hindrance that people at least maybe slow down because they know they may be coming up to another light. That's kind of all I needed, so thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council? Please come forward.
Hi, Jim Fisher, 816 Court Street, and as Chris Troy said, I'm too concerned about removing the traffic lights on 7th Street and at Court and at Union. Driving that area quite a bit every day, I kind of see what's going on a little bit as far as a lot of pedestrian traffic. The other thing we're seeing in our neighborhood is an increase in younger families and people walking children. So I'm a little concerned that if we have 7th Street just be just a throughfare with no stop whatsoever in those areas, that it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, for people to walk the children, holding their hand going downtown or going to the water or river walk or any of the attractions that are between our neighborhood or those lights and the downtown area. So again, I just have concern. I don't know, maybe a four-way red blinking light might actually be a little better alternative, or a four-way stop than the actual signal, but just something to slow the traffic down in those areas. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. It's actually not on this agenda, which is fine, but yeah, just so you're ahead of time, see, you're all set. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council this evening?
Hi there, Ben Soroka, 3706 Yorkshire Drive, Sterling Heights, Michigan. I actually grew up in the area, Smiths Creek area. So one of the things that I'm coming forward to you guys is, unfortunately, as James Freed spoke to me earlier about, you guys were discussing marijuana and opting in on that Proposal 1 that was voted in on 2018. I want to come forward and voice the opinion of the younger generation that's coming through. Recently, over the break of July 4th, we, myself and a couple other friends, we came together and we actually just started discussing and had a conversation dealing with Port Huron and the potential growth of the marijuana industry in this area. And we actually started thinking about it, and we came to the realization that we'd actually maybe like to put our roots down in here and maybe start looking at putting a business in Port Huron for marijuana dispensary. So under Section K, we'd fall under a micro business. We would not be selling to other processors or anyone along those lines, or retailers. We would be selling strictly to consumers only. One of the key things that we're looking to get into is just strictly to customers only. Obviously, one of the big benefits of marijuana is just the pain relief that you get from it. Opioids, in 2017, we had 601 hospitalizations here in St. Clair County. Obviously, in Port Huron, we are a large populous location for that. And we do have to realize that there is that high hospitalization here that we're seeing can be counterdicted by hopefully allowing for readily available access to the public here in Port Huron. One of the other things that I want to also address is the high cancer rate that we have here in Port Huron. St. Clair County has one of the highest cancer rates in all of Michigan. Unfortunately, that's just one of the factors that we have looking across the river and just in our industrialized area. Marijuana has been shown to relieve pain. In a recent study of 2,000 participants, there was seen side effects, seen relief of pain sufferers, allowing them to actually have some relief from their cancer treatment along those lines. So we definitely, I just want to voice my opinion and voice that there is growing support from younger folks here in the area. While it is just a small group of us, we are currently running quick with the ball right now. We are trying to figure out business plans right now. Myself, I have a degree in supply chain management, so business is in my background. My other friend has a degree in finance, so he is our one that's working on the financial side of things, working on the workbook and making sure that we have a proper workbook to go forward with, and making sure that we're readily available on revenue and where we're looking at for potential growth. And then my third friend who's going to be interested in this, he has currently going for his master's in engineering at Michigan State University. So all three of us are well educated. We do want to stay in the local area. That's a key point that I do want to push here. Unfortunately, I know that I missed out on the agenda, and like I said, this was something that was raised up over the break when we all were able to convene together over the holiday. We do want to hit the ball running and just want to voice our opinion to you guys here. Do appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the council this evening?
Madam Mayor, Council, Michael Batchelor, 3831 Catalpa Court in Port Huron, Michigan. I'm here to ask some questions or voice my opinion on the fireworks. I don't know if you had a public hearing on it, but I'm in favor of limiting the days, But I think one that we should really reconsider as a city is the Memorial Day, having fireworks on Memorial Day. That's a humble and a non-celebratory day. It's festive in its own way, but I would not think that fireworks are part of it. I think that that's one that we should reconsider. I don't know if that is mandated in what the state has, and if you're trying to follow that suit, but I think we're teaching the young kids to, about that day, and it is a day of, of any of us that have relatives up at the Allied Veterans, it's not even a day for the veterans, it's a Memorial Day, and that's what we should be really considering. So just thought I'd throw that at you. I don't know if it would be something you could amend, but it's a day that I think should be thought of in its own right, that it wouldn't be a day of festivity, so.
Thank you for your comments, but just to let you know, that is part of state law.
Well, that's what I wondered.
Yeah, it says Memorial Day in there, so
Well,
we don't have a choice.
Then maybe we should reconsider the state, because it really is not.
So you should get a hold of your legislators for that, your state legislators.
Well, it's an oversight then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to address the city council this evening? Seeing no one, I will close public comment. We will move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved. Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, supported by Councilmember Ashford. We will take the vote.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes, we have several items on the consent agenda. Made permanent temporary traffic control orders 1357, 1358, and 1359. One is Avondale Street shall yield to Thornhill Street, Ashland Court shall yield to Avondale Street, and Lakewood Avenue shall yield to Grant Place. Approve the scheduling of a public hearing for August the 12th to hear comments on the CAPER for program year 2018. Approve the 2019 request for local millage distribution from the St. Clair County Parks and Recreation Commission. Certify the delegates to serve at the 2019 Municipal Employees Retirement System of Michigan Annual Meeting in accordance with the Municipal Employees Retirement Act of 1984 as amended. Accepted the terms of grant agreement, grant from Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan in order to receive grant funding and for the implementation of a pilot program known as Sport Port, a youth sport equipment sharing partnership program. Also gave an ordinance, its second reading and enactment, which is to amend Chapter 34. It has to do with consumer fireworks of the Port Huron's Code of Ordinances for the purpose of regulating the hours and days for igniting, discharging, or using consumer fireworks, and to provide penalties for violations. And we'll go to item 1 under resolutions.
Authorizing 15 payments.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, supported by Councilmember Harris. Is there any discussion? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item 2, please.
Authorizing issuance of a general obligation limited tax refunding bonds, Series 2019.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Support.
Councilmember Pemberton, I wonder if the city manager could give a brief overview of this, please?
Yep, Madam Mayor and Council, this is another refinancing of our 2007 B bonds for sewer work. This is something we traditionally do. By refinancing this bond, we will save a present value savings of $160,774. If you were to take that out to a nominal cost for the life of the loan, that's about $202,305. It prevents us with a savings of about 4.7 before issuance cost. After issuance cost, about 4.6% savings. This was keeping the same amortization and same pay period off, so we're just refinancing it. The resolution calls for us to develop RFPs up to 5%. We will not bond out if it's anything over 3.1. Right now, we're seeing tax-exempt bonds like this come back between 2.5 and 3. So we believe the savings will be greater than what we estimate, but we want to be conservative.
Any questions from anyone?
Mayor Rep,
Member Warden?
just in the resolution, again, I'm all for, these come up as, available to be, I don't know if it's a call option that we can look at to try to redeem these to see if current market rates are there. Just for clarity for the public, if we do issue these, the existing bonds were going to be, the maturity date expiration was it 2030, 2034?
Correct.
And
That
these
will
new-
not change.
Yeah, so the new ones that potentially be issued will have that same, we're not going to be extending the time on this, it's just going to be a principal amount and potentially a lower interest rate. I did just want to point out, as these agreements go, it says not to exceed $3.5 million is what we're authorizing with the bond council. But also, they actually, I'm just wondering if there's any way, they actually have in the agreement that we're agreeing to, it says not to exceed 5% on this. And of course, the current bonds are, I think they're at a 4% interest rate, and that's what's generating the savings. So I'm just wondering, is it pretty tough to, or is it possible for us to maybe amend this to say, hey, you can issue these bonds, but not to exceed the current rate, the 4%?
So this is standard language that's any type of bond agreement. They give a standard up to 5%. I don't foresee an issue, which we're soliciting RFPs for direct placement, so banks submit an RFP essentially bidding on it. Why would we issue bonds at a higher interest rate? We just wouldn't do it.
I know, but it's in what we're authorizing.
Yeah, but we just wouldn't do it. We wouldn't issue the bonds. If the rates don't come below what we have, we just won't issue the bonds.
Bonds shall not be sold at a price to make interest costs borrow deduction, any discount exceeding 5% per annum.
Yeah, why would we do that?
Well, it's in here, that's what I was saying, why wouldn't we
Because
just...
this is standard bond language that the Treasury accepts, up to 5%, but I don't believe Mayor Rep would put her signature on a bond that's for a higher interest rate than we have now.
So we'd have that?
So, yeah.
I'm
You
just,
can pretty much be assured of that.
At the end of the day, these bonds don't get issued till she signs.
well, I will be for that if that's the case, and I just wanted to clarify that, what we're agreeing to in this contract or this agreement.
here.
In
Thank
fact,
you.
if we don't get a yield rate of greater than 4%, we probably won't sign.
Yeah, less than 4, yeah, okay.
Any other questions, concerns? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes, we'll move on to item 3.
Authorizing actions with respect to pension bonds.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Support.
Mayor Pro Tem Archibald, supported by Councilmember Ashford. And do you think for the public's purpose, you could give a little bit of a
Yes,
background on what we're
absolutely.
doing?
So for the last 3 years, we worked with the legislature to change the legislation that allows us to refinance our pension liabilities, unfunded liabilities. We will begin working on that process, but to do that, you need to essentially designate an underwriter. You have to designate bond counsel outside of our current legal counsel per Treasurer standards. This resolution is essentially authorizing me to begin to develop the comprehensive business plans necessary and to facilitate the work with Treasury to bring you all your option to bond the pensions. This train ride has about 15 different stops you can get off anytime. This is the first stop where you begin. So we've been working on the comprehensive business plan, but I've never had a formal directive from the mayor and council to tell me to do this. And so what Treasury is going to want when I start working on this, and Ed starts working on this, is they're going to want to say, do your bosses approve of this? So this is you saying, give me the permission, give me the direction to begin preparing the business plans, the notice of intent, and the bond language to bring to you for future action.
Which is, yeah. Well, you would have to do that anyway, because what you come with afterwards, we still have to okay it.
Correct.
So that's
Correct.
the process.
Correct. There's going to be
how it
about,
goes.
I sent you a calendar that takes us all the way into the end of November on how this works.
Perfect.
And there's like 4 or 5 key votes. Any one of those votes, we can kill this. So this is not, you're not voting to issue $53 million in bonds tonight. You're voting to authorize me to work with an underwriter, to work with bond counsel, to begin developing the business plan, working with Treasury to bring you that option.
Okay.
Mayor Rep,
Councilmember Harris.
I guess just kind of a follow-up question. That was probably the number one question I was going to ask James on this. But I guess my other question is with the amount of $53 million that we're asking about, have we given thoughts to multiple bonds or one large bond, or is that decision you're going to make down the road?
So,
that'll be brought
so that's
back
what they
to
do.
us?
It's not going to be one bond for 53 million. They'll be broke up into coupons and sold off separately.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Ashford.
also, in your summary report, this is going to probably save about 56 million that you project at
Yeah.
the end of the day?
Yeah, so Treasury requires, just like we just did a savings here with our bond, you just don't get to refinance unless there's significant savings. Treasury requires a present value savings of at least 20%, which is a very high hurdle to jump on, but we will make that.
Okay. And so that's where your comment come in, if we do it properly, we're
Correct.
destined to save
Correct.
taxpayers money.
Correct, and we are, Councilman Morton brought up an excellent point a few minutes ago about a few council meetings ago about market risk. He was right to do so. Treasury has looked at pension bonding all across the country, where it has worked successfully, and then where has it failed. I've worked with Treasury to analyze those failures and develop what can be a proper box to put ours in that makes it more likelihood for success. One of them is the PV of 20%. Some states just refinance just to get a longer payment. They didn't save any money. Treasury doesn't like that. It's closing the systems to prevent more accrued liability from being created. So there's a whole host of steps and maneuvers that must be taken to reduce the variables in the bonding process to create an environment more likely for success.
Okay, and I think that that's why they depend on the PV, because it puts you right there in real time.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Excellent.
Any other questions, discussion?
Mayor Up?
Councilmember Warden.
Yeah, I do. I don't know if anybody else wants to go first, because I don't want to take up anybody else's time. So I'm going to offer that. Anybody else has some quick questions?
You don't offer that.
Huh?
The mayor does that, but thank you anyway.
Well, I'm actually, yeah,
No, you just do
'cause-
what you do, and the mayor will
Well,
chair the
yeah,
meeting.
so a couple things on this is, I reviewed the initial BARD, I guess you sent some attachments, kind of some breakdown. And again, BARD is just going to be acting as the underwriter. They're not going to give any counsel. They're not going to be telling you yes or no to do it, or you should. It's a disclosure that I highlighted. So I want to make sure that's very clear when you go into this, that they're strictly there just to facilitate whatever offering if you do. The, again, question I have, and concern I have, again, is, this came through, and I was looking through it, and it's 52 million. It's like 52 or 53, and it's right near the max of our total city debt cap. And I think I mentioned it before back in May, I'd like to be able to see what, as council member, what maybe 10 or 15 million dollars or 20 or 25 million dollars, what those would look like as far as that borrowing amount compared to putting the funding in, and how it would affect our annual, our assumed valuations and our required capital contributions. And I know we haven't seen any of that yet, so I pretty much am sitting here, I'm requesting that again. I think it would be
Councilman
good.
Ward, with that request, it didn't go unannounced. The issue is I cannot provide you that data because Treasury requires a present value savings of 20%. You cannot chip away in increments of 10 or 15 or 20 million dollars of our unfunded liability and achieve a PV that meets state statute. So it's going to have to be refinanced a large enough portion of our unfunded liability. We have an unfunded liability in our latest valuation of about 72 million. We're only refinancing about 52 million. That allows us to achieve the 20% PV required by statute. Any less than that, we'll only achieve between 15 and 20, not 20%. Therefore, we wouldn't meet the threshold to bond. So you have to take out a large enough amount, that accrued liability, to create the PV necessary to meet the guidelines.
So just on your savings that you're trying to calculate, the word savings, again, I think in the previous information that I provided from other cities, that, and even with the municipal, I think it was the governmental municipal finance directors association board or whatever, advised against that, and there's many things of concern about do not, sell it, or don't be communicating it as a savings, because just on a raw numbers, when you figure it out, you actually have the interest that you're paying on the debt, the amount of debt that we're paying, the interest on it, but then you also have the assumptions can change at any time for the valuation. And it could be, you could have the market risk where the investment portfolio actually goes down, which is going to cause a potential demand, but also the actuaries, and they've done it multiple times. I was reading through the MERS, or the actuarial thing here that stated that, the actual assumptions have changed like 4 or 5 times already in the last, 5 years. And I think we just got another assumption change where it lowered it from 7.75 down to 7.35. These can always change in the future, so I'm knowing that they're doing it. Moody's, I think, stated that they just use a straight-up 5.5% if you're going to try to evaluate it. And I think we have one option here that you provided that showed it at 5.35%. It was one of the calculations with the bonding proceeds and without the bonding proceeds. And if we utilize that, I know it sounds very complicated, but the reality is that we're borrowing this money, we're putting it into, you're submitting a plan probably at the 7.375 or 7.75, what is it going to be to try to get that savings?
Well, that's an excellent question. I provided you 9 different scenarios to address, as you, Mark, mentioned, the assumptions. So of the 9 scenarios, I gave you 2 50 basis points high, 50 basis points low, and a center basis point of 4.75% issuance cost.
That's right.
So we went to 50 high, 50 low of that to show the sensitivity for issuance cost. In addition to that, for each one of those, 1, 2, 3, 50 high, the 4.75, and 50 low, there's 3. I did 3 other business models that show you 100 basis points and 200 basis points below assumptions rate of return. So there's 7.35, 6.35, and 5.35. So you really have, you have 9 different sensitivity analysis models to look at the what ifs. What if the assumptions are reduced? What if the assumptions in the issuance costs are changed? You have 9 different models. Of all of those 9 models, we still achieve a PV of 20% and still find ourselves with a present value savings of more than $2 million within 5 years.
So, again, my suggestion to fellow council members and the mayor that we have him use the worst-case scenario in his plan there of the 5.35%, which gives us the, again, that's an assumed rate of return instead of the lower rate of return, with, of course, the higher cost of debt.
Treasury doesn't allow you to pick. Treasury's not satisfied with that. Treasury requires you to show all 9, because we don't get to pick. So we have to show the spectrum of what it could be. And so in our business plan, there's a reason why there's 9 scenarios. Under Bulletin Guideline 11 that Treasury put out on the pension bonding, they require all 9 models, because we don't get to pick what our rate of return is, because we don't know. But we know within 300 basis points, 300 basis points what it most likely will be. So we are following this to the T of what Treasury has put out, and under Bulletin Line are the guidelines to do it.
What they're requiring.
Correct, and they're requiring the 9 scenarios. You don't get to pick what your rate of return is. You get to show them the spectrum.
Yeah, so they're going to require that in order to approve or say, yes, you can go ahead and do it. And there is no way to do a lower amount of doing some pension borrowing in increments of 25 million at this time, and 5-10 years down the road.
I just don't see how you achieve. It's very difficult at 52 million in refinancing to achieve 20%.
Yeah.
In fact, we don't even achieve 20% in the first year. They let us take a pass on that and do it in the second year because they know it's so hard to achieve 20%. It's a significant savings. So even if our rate of return, which you argue could be 5.35, if our issuance cost is at 4.75, we're still making 1.5 on 52 million, and creating a 30-year amortization to reduce our payments. So, like I said, this train has a lot of stops, so we don't even have we're talking about a business plan here, but tonight I'm just asking for authorization to make a comprehensive business plan to bring you. And that's when, I think when we have that data that I bring you, this will be a much more fruitful discussion.
Okay.
But you bring up, I want to say, Councilman Warden brings up very good points, and we can't diminish the market risk. He's highlighting a very, very real issue, that what is making this complex is we want to avoid these issues. And so I appreciate the questions you're bringing up. They're completely legitimate and timely, and we're going to address those in our comprehensive business plan.
Okay. I appreciate the response, the information that was provided. I did review, and I also reviewed as much as I can, and strongly suggest that even though we're trying to get this and do it, to be able to do it, we still have to know the other risks that all the other cities that had the problems learn from those, because this is going to be a real scenario that we're not going to have any leeway in. Once we do this, 3 years, 5 years, if there's a a downdraft for even a couple of years, we're going to be looking at potentially, we're going to have to potentially cut, employees. I mean,
I'm not sure why you would
services.
say that, because we anticipate that some years will be down. That's why Treasury requires a 30-year horizon. And the reason for a 30-year horizon is you have a more likely opportunity of meeting your expectations of at least 5.35%. If, for instance, you bring up some communities that have failed, they didn't close their systems, so they essentially refinanced their credit card and kept the credit card open. We are closing our systems to prevent any additional accrued liability. Our employees just took a massive hit to their pension, bridging down from 2.5 to 2. They've capped FAC. We have taken so many steps that those communities didn't take to eliminate the variables and risk. So it's not like we're just going out there refinancing. This is the last step of a multi-year restructuring that the city has taken. And so pointing to those other cities would not be it's a false dichotomy, because we are doing many things that those cities did not to alleviate those market risks. So going forward, let's continue to remove variables to address the risk factor. But even at the end of the day, if we lose 10% of our assets on a 30-year amortization of a new ARC, we are still better off now. Because the truth of the matter is that if we don't restructure this, there is no alternative plan. So I appreciate your concerns, but while we work on this, I'm all open to alternative plans to address our pension liability.
Yeah. And I just, again, even the investment return part can smooth out at the 30-year to try to get that 5 or 6%. What I'm trying to bring up is that the actual valuation that affects us every year with what our annual contribution on top of that is, we're going to have this fixed payment of principal and interest that we have to pay. There's going to be an ARC, which is a required payment based on a valuation, but those valuations are going to change as they do these valuations, and they will and may assume, just like they did, reduce or change the assumptions, which we have to be prepared for. That's going to be much on top of the bond payment and the return. It could be a much higher dollar amount that we're going to be obligated to pay.
Well, that's why under Bulletin 11, if you read Treasury guidelines, you are not allowed to bond out more than 80% of your unfunded liability. We are not allowed to bond out 100% of our unfunded liability. And that's for the additional 20% counts for market deviation. That allows us in the out years, should the assumptions change, we can change our plans internally. So if in the future, if mortality rates rise to be 102, then we will adjust our pension plan to account for that. So we still have the ability to make future plan changes to address those out year issues.
I appreciate all your work and information that you've put into this for a couple of years. I, again, just wouldn't be able to sleep if I didn't continue to help and try to help and communicate some of these risks that are out there.
You're 100% right. I'll say this again. I've met with some of the most brilliant financial minds in the entire country on this issue. If you have a viable alternative plan to this, I'm all for it. But I've spent 5 years and I haven't found one.
Yeah. My only suggestion would be to try to do a lower borrowing amount, but again, you mentioned that might not get us an approval, so.
Okay, we'll move on. Is there any other discussion from council? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Warden?
No.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. We'll move on to item 4.
Approving the agreement with the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund Development Project to receive grant funding in the amount of $50,000 for the purpose of constructing a new accessible walkway, parking lot repairs, play equipment, and park amenities at Palmer Park, and authorizing a $55,000 local match.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Pemberton, is there a second?
Support?
Councilmember Beeden. Is there discussion?
Just appreciate Kim and Nancy with this grant. One of the things they're doing is they're not just applying for grants just because we want free stuff. They're applying for grants that offset much-needed capital, meaning the parking lot's going to crap, and we're going to have to fix it no matter what. So if we don't get any help, we're going to have to fix it.
Regardless.
Regardless. The playscape is below safety standards. So if we don't get a grant, we're still going to have to replace it so we don't get sued. So they've done a strategic job of applying for grants to offset capital needs. Instance, Riverside Boat Launch is another one. That's falling apart. It's like the moon. So they're doing an excellent job. It's not like we're just applying for stuff, and if we get it, we buy it. These are going through our CIP and finding grant funding to help make it possible.
Mayor Rep, and the
Councilmember Ashford.
local match is coming from where?
General fund.
General fund?
Yep.
And that was anticipated?
Correct.
Yes. Any other discussion?
Mayor Rep,
Councilmember Harris?
just a question, with this addition, is how's this affecting our parameters at the park there? We keep growing up there, and are we going to reach a limit?
I think we'll stay about the same in parameters, but it is a very popular park, so traffic has been something up there.
A lot more.
We
Thank
got a
you.
lot more to be up there.
Lots of things to do.
Yeah.
Mayor Rep,
Councilmember Warden?
just want to take this time again to thank not only Nancy and city administration for another successful award of a grant. Just amazing. I love to see these, and you have my full support. The amazing amount of help that we get by constantly going out there and looking for it, asking for it, trying to put it together. Just total compliment. Thank you.
Any other discussion? We will take the vote.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes. Item 5, please.
Authorizing the removal of a traffic control signal at the intersection of Michigan Street and Grand River Avenue.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Councilmember Ashford, is there a second?
Support?
Councilmember Pemberton? Is there discussion? Yes, Councilmember Harris.
Just a minor question, looking at it today and looking at the traffic from the safety standard for getting the ambulances out there. Is this going to maintain a four-way stop, or are we going to have it a two-way stop?
As much as I would like a two-way stop, I was told that because of the visuals in the corner with the buildings, you got big buildings all four corners, it needs to remain a four-way stop because you don't have a good line of sight. So,
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say, since the day I stepped foot back in this city, I've hated this traffic light. It's absolutely pointless.
It's cute.
You had got half of what you wanted.
I got half of what I want, I'll take it. There's nothing worse than sitting there at a stop sign than going up to a red light and there's no one there, so.
Yeah. Any other questions, discussion?
Mayor Rep, just like to
Councilmember
make a
Warden.
comment again. This is right on the corner of my place there. It is, it's nice to see that you guys took the initiative to go after and try to do the study of just the blinking, kind of a four-way stop blinking. We do have the I think it's the Tri-County or EMS that is very active there. The police come shooting out of there. I hear them all the time coming out of the gate. But I think just a four-way traffic stop is going to be much more feasible there, because just like City Manager Freed said, you find yourself there sitting at the light and there's nobody around. I think it's nice to have that removed. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We'll take the vote.
Councilmember Ashford?
Yes.
Councilmember Beeden?
Yes.
Councilmember Harris?
Yes.
Councilmember Pemberton?
Yes.
Councilmember Warden?
Yes.
Councilmember Archibald?
Yes.
Mayor Rep.
Yes, that concludes our regular agenda. There are a few announcements. The deadline for nominations to be submitted to the city clerk's office for the Beautification Commission's annual Yard of the Year contest is July 15th, which is coming up. The next regular city council meeting will be held August 12th. We only do one regular meeting in July and one regular meeting in August. So that's the next regular one. Also, just a reminder that fun starts next week. We have the parade starts on Wednesday night, and the Blue Water Festival, and the boats and all that. And if you're interested in seeing what's going on, there you can visit the website for, it's called thebluewaterfest.com, and it lays out everything that's going on next weekend. So there'll be lots of fun. And also, we have a ribbon cutting that's coming up next Thursday, which I'd like to ask if Nancy Windsor could come up and talk a little bit about that. It has to do with the parks, and we always like to promote those.
What day was that? Next when?
Pardon me?
You said it was coming up next when?
Thursday,
Oh, Thursday.
yeah.
Could have gave you the cordless mic.
Thanks. Mayor Rep, City,
Walk all the way up there.
Mayor Rep, City Council, we're cutting the ribbon on Thursday at Sanborn Park for all of our courts. We kind of did that last time when we did a bunch of them at Knox. This time we're doing it at Sanborn, but we have a new basketball court at Sanborn. We have a new one at Optimus. a new one at 16th Street with a new pickleball court, and a new one refinished at Lincoln Park as well. So we're going to cut the ribbon for all four, just kind of do a celebration at Sanborn. And we're super excited, thankful to the Community Foundation of St. Clair County and Ralph C. Wilson Foundation, and also the St. Clair County Parks and Recreation Village. So 4 great places here in Port Huron. We're going to do a celebration on Thursday. Love for you to join us if you could.
11 a.m., right?
11 a.m.
Thank you,
Thank
Nancy.
you.
Sorry I made you walk up there. Is there anything else to come before the council?
Mayor Rep?
Councilmember?
I just have just a couple, comments on, this past, from July 4th through the weekend there, and every day now in Port Huron. It's still, as I just drive around, it just seeing the activity, or even at my place looking out, there's so much, this place is such a wonderful area. I drove down by the beaches as well, a couple days there just to see the activity. It is just such a friendly area, from downtown to the different parks, and again, Pine Grove Park as well. And I do want to compliment us, some of the neighborhoods you don't really think about. I don't know if there was an official get-together or not, or what happened, but I happened to drive back on, I think it was the 4th of July. It was right around 9:30, and it was, I think, between Cherry and Gratiot right there at the park. That whole section, there must have been the neighborhood from all over came to gather. That was such a huge turnout. There was hundreds of cars, just hundreds of people that walked to that area to show. I was blown away by it. I had no idea that somebody must have organized a community get together there, and they had some fireworks going off, but just so many people out there enjoying it. And the real key is the next morning. I was up pretty early and drove by just to see, because there's so many fireworks and firecrackers going off in that area, that the city department, the city workers, City of Port Huron, those guys were out there cleaning all that up. I was just amazed at those guys being out there to help to clean up after that. Such a huge, it really was just a huge event, and I don't know if it was official or not, but somebody got a memo out. But those guys were there cleaning it up, and I just give my hats off to the city workers there that were doing that that early, and it had to be 7 a.m. It was 6, maybe 7 or 8 a.m. It was early. So compliments to them. I just wanted to share some of the good things that we see as went on this last 4 days over the weekend. Thank you.
One other thing that I forgot, because we don't have another meeting until August, just as a reminder for an event in the community which is really growing, and that's Main Street Car Memories, which is the last Saturday, the July 27th is here again, and that's really become a really nice event, so encourage people to go to it.
And I'd just like to say, I too went past Gratiot, and that is an annual event at Gratiot where everybody, they kick in money to do that. And then at the south end on, in Grant Place, they do the same. Everybody's out there. If you want to touch anybody or whatever, it was just such a diversity of people, not just color-wise, but just all levels of diversity was out there just enjoying themselves. Nobody's cussing and getting mad at each other, and nobody's smoking anything. They were all just having a nice time. So it was really great going throughout the city, watching that happen.
Great people in the city.
Anything else? If not, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Meeting adjourned.
On my tooth, so they put, so moved.